in front of his name? The Honorable John Corzine. The Honorable John Corzine. This is what's going on. It's just a front. Corzine doesn't do any time. The feds aren't busting down his door. I can't get my money. You can't get your money. That's our money. But Corzine can't find $1.2 billion, and the cat's honorable. So no, Alex, the whole thing is collapsing. That tape that you played proves it. A bank holiday. That should be headline news.
And by the way, Ron Paul gets criticized for saying something like that's coming. He's on the banking committee. He knows it's being discussed. You've got to leave in a minute, but you've agreed to come on later in the week to go over the rest of your 12 points. But briefly, I want to play Terrence Duffy 2 weeks ago, proving that Corzine's lying, and Corzine has still not gotten in any trouble. And his former deputy was over the federal agency that allowed this and has disappeared. But the media doesn't care about that because they're bought and paid for. They're whores, bought and paid for by these people. They're not media. Here's the clip.
After receiving this information, CME remained at MF Global while MF Global attempted to identify funds that could be transferred into segregation to reduce or eliminate the discrepancy. A CME auditor also participated in a phone call with senior MF Global employees wherein one employee indicated that Mr. Corzine knew about the loans that had made for the customer segregated accounts. CME Group has provided this information names of these individuals to the Department of Justice and the CFTC who are investigating these matters.
All right, so understand something, folks. That's the whole mercantile exchange above this who had their people in there. Now, obviously, if Gerald Salente's pulling out, you know, $15,000 or whatever it was, and they're freaking out. If I'm pulling out $5,000, they're freaking out. Oh, but they don't know where billions went. Yeah, they do. It went to Goldman Sachs. It went to J.P. Morgan. It's on record. So in closing, there it is, Gerald, and he's not gotten in trouble. So if he doesn't get in trouble, it sets the precedent they can do anything.
They have done anything. You haven't seen one head roll on Wall Street with this whole financial crisis. What a joke, the Justice Department. You know, it's just us little people, not them. And the CFTC, you pointed it out. Who's the head of the CFTC? Gary Gensler. Who's Gary Gensler? Gary Gensler was John Corzine's lieutenant when John the Don Corzine was the head of Goldman Sachs. I mean, only an imbecile can't put this together.
Wow. Gerald, we don't have time. You've got to go in about a minute to go through the other 6 or 7 trends. But just in 60 seconds, what's one of the other really important ones that we're going to cover later in the week when you join us?
Oh, climax time. Everybody's going to wake up this year, and there's going to know the 2 things that are going on. Number 1, there is no recovery. There never was a recovery, and it's going to get a lot worse. Number 2, they're going to start getting the message that the first great war of the 21st century has begun. So we're going to start seeing all these geopolitical and financial problems that have been building up come to a conclusion.
So strap yourself in. Well, we'll talk to your crew and find out a good day for you to come on. We'll pencil in someday this week, Gerald, to come on and go through the rest of it and take calls.
I'd love to. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you. There goes Gerald Salente, my friends. And, yes, strap yourselves in. Here's what I'm going to do. We've had callers holding since I got Gerald on. And so we're going to go to Tom and then others that are patiently holding here in just a moment. And then I'm getting into the latest Iran. And it's a big stack, probably 15 articles I'm going to scan over. We've got incredible tyranny in China that our criminal government won't criticize. We've got TSA. Screeners aren't just for airports anymore. Shopping malls, highways, everywhere. They're coming. They're coming for your wife and children. They know they can grab the genitals. They can do anything. It's an act of total domination. Like a big dog hiking its leg and urinating on a little dog. This is pure pimp time. They're going to break you and let you know you're their slave. You're their crack whore now. The government is here to dominate. This is called slavery. And the main reason I've been told by insiders for TSA is to get you ready for forced inoculations. It's about the hands go on. We've confirmed with documents. They've trained the preachers. When the time comes to say it's of the Lord, take the shot, turn your guns in. They're not training preachers, tens of thousands, well, it's hundreds of thousands now, nationwide, and putting them on secret FEMA payroll because they want to play tiddlywinks. This is super creepy, super premeditated, super evil. And if you don't get super angry and super involved, they're going to get away with it. This is the total takedown of America from the inside by the mega banks. Total criminal groups. I mean, heaven help us, this next year is going to be bonker land. Let's go to Tom in Pennsylvania. You're on the air. Thanks for holding, Tom.
Hey, Alex.
Welcome.
Hey, last Monday, a friend of mine called me, and he was working, he's from Pennsylvania as well, but he was working up in Rochester, New York, and one of the other contractors he was working with told him that over that weekend, he was together with his father over some kind of family get-together, and his father is a prison guard at one of the local prisons there, and his father told him that they had gotten a memo and then were asked for a sit-down meeting. And they suggested that all the prison guards, let me see here, apply for work at the FEMA camp because they were anticipating within the next 6 to 8 months that the prisons would have to close due to funding. And then they also suggested that they store 2 months' worth of food and water.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny. I've actually seen blurbs where they do tell federal and state employees and private groups to dig in. I know police departments for about 5 years have been digging in for war with the American people, not to fight guys with turbans on. That's a total smokescreen, always has been. The memos prove that. But I'd like you to get your friend on the show or to send us that memo. In fact, if anybody's got memos like that, send them to showtips@infowars.com. If you don't hear on the show a day later, send it 5 times until we get it because it's such a limited crew and funding to have folks digging through it all. But we do get a lot of hot tips, obviously, break a lot of news that way. But specifically, though, that's how they always work it. They build prisons for nonviolence, but also violence. Then when things implode, they pack the prisons with political dissidents. And a lot of police departments have said, buy guns. We're not going to be able to protect you. We've been ordered to just revenue generate. And it's just a total criminal government. I mean, I can keep saying that over and over again, but words don't describe it. Was the person you were talking to concerned about this?
Yeah, well, the person I was talking to, he's aware. He's been listening, and he turned me on to you. And but he was just surprised that somebody else just came up to him out of the blue. I don't think he's ever had any kind of discussion like this with him before.
Well, by the way, they are running around hiring state, federal, and private prison guards. Well, private for state and federal. That's who they put in the 36 camps in Iraq. And they would actually go find guys who had been kicked out for rape or abuse and hire them for Abu Ghraib, where they rape children in front of their parents. I mean, remember, that's what America signed on to. I mean, this is, you think Jack Bauer's cool because he tortures the bad guy? That's fantasy, folks, to get you to accept torture as cool. So get us that document. I want that document, Tom. Good job calling in with that information. Anything else?
Well, one thing I was thinking it'd be a good idea if you had some kind of suggesting reading list, because a lot of times I've heard you refer to books that you've read or...
We need to do that. That's a great point. More calls straight ahead, then the big news. Stay with us. The Batman spotlight into the sky and asked Paul Watson to look into this. Obama has not signed the NDAA. I think this Politico thing is a typo because it's talking about a Defense Authorization Act, but it's a separate one and some supplemental to an older one. There's so much defense spending. And it's got language about detainees and same subsections, and no wonder people were confused by this. I tell you, this is getting crazy. I'm going to dig into this, because if he hasn't signed it, what's going on? I'm going to have to look into this a lot closer. Very bizarre. Let's continue with your calls, and then I'm going to play Wesley Clark on C-SPAN, former head general at NATO, former U.S. general, admitting there was a plan to attack 7 countries, and they're following that plan now. And Iran is next up, as well as Syria. Let's talk to Bill in Connecticut. Bill, thanks for holding.
Yeah, hi, Alex.
Hi.
Yeah, briefly, you were talking about why Obama didn't sign the bill yet. And it could be, I remember listening to a Lindsey Williams YouTube saying that the globalists aren't very happy with Obama because he's been resisting them. But he has to play along to a certain degree in order to keep his job, if you will, and other things. So that may be playing into this whole thing.
Well, I know this. I mean, he certainly said a lot of things like end war, stop torture, whenever he was running that he went back on. But his advisors are top New World Order. And I'm not saying Lindsay's wrong, but I know who his big oil company source is. You know, there are splits within the power structure itself.
Okay. I put that out there because that was the last thing I heard on the radio.
No, I think that might be it. I mean, who knows? Why hasn't he signed it yet? Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. Just going back, that there may be some problems with Obama not playing along with these guys. But the main point was, you know, I often hear you say that resistance is victory, and to a degree I agree with that, but I think that's only one step in a procession of other steps.
Yeah, if we resist the right thing in the right way. I'm just trying to get folks moving and out of their trance, and once you get on the field, you'll get a better understanding. But
well, I was listening to, you had Bruce Fine on it. He was thinking along the same lines that I was thinking of, that we need to subpoena these people and prosecute them. And he was even talking about impeaching the congressmen that are not holding their oath to the Constitution, which is virtually all of them at this point. And so what I was thinking, if you could get Ron Paul or Rand Paul to form a subcommittee and bring people before the subcommittee like Lindsey Williams, and then subsequent to his testimony, bringing the oil bigwigs, you could start with them, because they're obviously intrinsically involved.
Oh, you're right. Imagine a House Committee on Un-American Activities. You could haul in all the globalists who are openly have quotes and written books saying get rid of sovereignty, get rid of our industry. Maurice Strong, all of them. You could haul in there George Soros, all of them. Here's the issue. Our power is starting to approach that level. We first got to wake people up to realize Obama and people are puppets and look at the banksters themselves. And we're in that process now. That's why they're trying to finish their end game and launch their wars and clamp down, because they know we're close to getting our country back. That's why they've gone into this mode. But you're right. Talking about how they're criminals, talking about how they're gangsters, pulling down this aura of the wise men in suits that, care about us. No, these are organized crime scum. And where are the grand juries, federal and state? Where are the people? I mean, here's Corzine committing crimes publicly, so I hammer it every day. Highest level of the administration advisor. Here is the Attorney General caught shipping drugs in, shipping guns out. In federal court, caught. Even in the New York Times now. 8 agencies under him, all involved, of course, shepherding the $500 billion in drugs a year. That's then laundered by big banks. We have the entire chain, every angle, the money, the drugs, the weapons to secure them, all there. Guns into Honduras, guns into Nicaragua, guns into Illinois, Indiana, Florida, Texas, using it to then shut down the Second Amendment. False flag. We have them, but we've got to get the word out. And if everybody went to city council on TV and just talked about it, where's our city putting out a resolution against this? It's all about the buzz.
Back in front of his name, the Honorable John Corzine. The Honorable John Corzine. This is what's going on. It's just a front. Corzine doesn't do any time. The feds aren't busting down his door.
Giving this information, CME remained at MF Global while MF Global attempted to identify funds that could be transferred into segregation to reduce or eliminate the discrepancy. A CME auditor also participated in a phone call with senior MF Global.
That should be headline news.
And by the way, Ron Paul gets criticized for saying something like that's coming. He's on the banking committee. He knows it's being discussed. You've got to leave in a minute, but you've agreed to come on later in the week to go over the rest of your 12 points. But briefly, I want to play Terrence Duffy 2 weeks ago, proving that...
I can't get my money. You can't get your money. That's our money. but Corzine can't find $1.2 billion, and the cat's honorable. So no, Alex, the whole thing is collapsing. That tape that you played proves it. A bank holiday.
Corzine's lying, and Corzine has still not gotten in any trouble. And his former deputy was over the federal agency that allowed this and has disappeared. But the media doesn't care about that because they're bought and paid for. They're whores, bought and paid for by these people. They're not media. Here's the clip.
After receiving